students. Today's topic is about nutritional anemia. Let me take you through the contents of today's presentation. We'll be talking about the burden of nutritional anemia with global and Indian scenario, the cutoff levels for classifying anemia, the etiology of nutritional anemia, the health effects of anemia on different population groups, and the prevention of anemia. Anemia is a condition that is characterized by decrease in the hemoglobin concentration in the body, which results in decreasing in the oxygen carrying capacity of the blood. Currently, 1/3 of the world's population is afflicted with anemia, with maximum of women and children involved in this. As a result of anemia, there is poor cognitive development and motor development in children. It reduces the working capacity of an individual, and if it affects women during pregnancy, it is associated with poor birth outcome in terms of mortality, morbidity, and in terms of the neonatal outcome. There will be low birth weight baby, and it leads to prematurity also. So currently 1/3 of the anemia in the world is affecting women, and it's estimated that 1/3 of all women of reproductive age group are anemic. And if we see among this woman population, 40% of the women who are pregnant are anemic, and over 40% of children under 5 years of age are anemic worldwide. Now let's have a look at the problem statement of anemia worldwide and in India. This is a recent world map released by the World Health Organization regarding the prevalence of anemia in women of reproductive age group. In this map, you can clearly see the difference in the prevalence of anemia across different countries. Here I have displayed 3 countries reflecting most developed countries, least developed countries, and developing countries. So here you can see the prevalence of anemia in America is around 13%, and if you compare it with least developed country like Yemen, it's 69%, touching 70%, and in India again not so good, it's 51%. So there's wide variation in the prevalence of anemia across different countries in the world. Here again in this map you can compare the prevalence of anemia in children less than 5 years, showing wide variation across developing, developed and underdeveloped nations. In India around 56%, 57% of children less than 5 years suffer from anemia, very huge percentage. In America it's just 9% of children have anemia, and if you see in Yemen, which is a country in an emergency situation with humanitarian crisis, with displaced population living in displaced tents, so with poor nutrition, poor access to health, the prevalence of anemia in this most vulnerable population less than 5-year age group is touching 84-85%. Coming to India, nutritional anemia is a public health problem with involving all age groups and both genders. Here you can see anemia is around 20% prevalent among males, 40% prevalence in children, 55% of adults and girls in anemia are anemic, 60% of adult females who are non-pregnant, non-lactating are anemic, and in pregnancy, which is a very vulnerable group and high risk group, the prevalence of anemia is quite high. It's around 80% in India. So these are the cutoff levels of hemoglobin given by WHO across different age groups and gender specific. So you can appreciate here the cutoff level of hemoglobin. For men it's around 13 gram per deciliter, for pregnant women it's 11 gram per deciliter, and for non-pregnant, non-lactating it is 12 gram, and for children again we have these are the cutoff levels, and the cutoff levels for classifying them as mild, moderate and severe is also given in this slide. You can go through this slide in detail. Based on the prevalence of anemia, the countries across the world have been classified in 4 groups. which classifies them as having anemia of public health significance. Most of the countries do have anemia, which exists as severe to moderate public health problem. So countries which have more than 40% of prevalence of anemia, they have been classified as having severe, having anemia of which is of severe public health significance. Now let us talk about the etiology of anemias, but we'll be mainly focusing on the nutritional anemia here. If we see overall, there are three mechanisms that are responsible for anemia. So it can be either because of ineffective production of the blood cells, or it can be because of the breakdown of blood cells, or it can be because of the loss of blood. And if we see overall globally, there are three important causes of anemia. Number one important cause of anemia is the nutritional anemia due to iron deficiency. Then we have anemia because of hemoglobinopathies, and we have anemia that is because of chronic infection, especially malaria. And anemia because of the nutritional deficiency is mainly, as I said, it is mainly because of the iron as such, iron as an important micronutrient. But it has been seen that nutritional anemia is also occurs due to insufficient intake of some important nutrients in our diet that are necessary for the hemopoiesis, and among them iron tops the list. Then we have many vitamins, like we have vitamin A, vitamin B2, B6, B12, folate, and then we have some other micronutrients that are classified under minerals or elements, like we have copper. So they play a specific role in the production of hemoglobin, or we can say in the erythropoiesis process as such. Now there are many factors, many reasons that can lead to iron deficiency anemia. So it can be either because of inadequate intake of diet rich in iron. So faulty intake of diet, or we can say diet poor in quality as well as quantity of food that gives nutrients responsible for the production of hemoglobin in the body. So here we can say that people who resort to monotonous diet intake, or who have a faulty diet intake, who use diet in wrong combination, consuming foods which have many inhibitors that reduce the absorption of iron in our body. So that can be one factor responsible for anemia. Then we have factors that lead to inadequate absorption of iron inside the body. So again, it can be either because of many conditions. It can be because of some chronic infection, because of some disease which can interfere with the absorption of iron inside the body. Then we have, it can be because of inadequate stores inside the body. Now inadequate stores can be because either the person has, again it may be because of less diet intake, or in case of, say in case of children, we can say that children who are born with low birth weight, or who were born as premature child, they often have very poor stores of iron, and if they have poor diet intake during their first and second year of life, they are more vulnerable and more prone to develop anemia. Then we have one more condition, like increased requirement for iron. So there are certain phases of life where the requirement for iron is very high, especially during the early phases of life, in young infant after 2 years of age, in children less than 5 years of age. Then during adolescent phase for boys as well as girls, the iron requirement is quite high. And then we have during pregnancy and during lactation. So anemia can happen when there is imbalance between the need, demand, and the intake of the food that provides iron to the body. Then excessive loss of iron. It can be, again, it can be due to many conditions. It can be physiological losses of iron due to bleeding during delivery, or it can be because of monthly blood loss in females during menstruation, or it can be chronic blood loss in certain chronic infections or infestations. So deficiency of iron is not attributed to single factor. So there are many factors that can lead to the nutritional anemia. So we have to address all these factors in order to overcome this problem at a broader level. Here you can appreciate, this is a graph which shows the relationship between the iron requirement with the age as well as certain important phases of life, which we call as vulnerable phases of life or certain vulnerable groups, where the demand of iron is quite high and the body is not meeting with the demands of the iron, and then it leads to anemia, or it predisposes them to anemia. So we have during infancy phase, up to, especially in the young infant group, less than 2 years of age group, the iron requirement is very high because of the rapid growth and development of the child. And then often they switch from mother's milk to the complementary food, which often is of poor iron, which has poor iron quantity, or if the food is rich in iron, it may not be of a quality iron. Then if the newborn has been a low birth weight, or if it was a premature baby, again the iron stores will be already very low, so it will have a negative balance on his iron metabolism. Then coming to the second phase, vulnerable phase of life, that is the adolescence phase. It's again considered to be high risk phase because the iron loss is the contributing factor to nutritional anemia, especially in girls who have a regular blood loss. And again, adolescent is a demanding phase in terms of growth and development. And if there's an adolescent pregnancy, there is increased additional requirement for iron. Then we have then at the time of childbirth, again the iron loss will be more. Then she needs to give breastfeed to the baby, again that for that she needs to have iron. So all these factors predispose to the iron deficiency or nutritional anemia in adolescent phase group. So iron requirement is very high in adolescent phase group, and it is equally important for boys also. And they are more vulnerable to anemia in this phase because of their faulty diet intake. Then coming to the pregnancy, here you can see there is a jump, or we can say there is a spike in the requirement of iron during pregnancy. With each subsequent pregnancies, the requirement is same, and it keeps on increasing. So because again iron is needed for the developing fetus, it's needed for the growth of the placenta, it's needed for the mother itself because she has to expand her blood volume. And then during the delivery itself, there's a lot of blood loss, again predisposing females to anemia. So these are certain important vulnerable groups which are vulnerable to anemia. And as is evident, we have high prevalence of nutritional anemia in this age group only, in infancy children, in adolescent groups, and in females who are pregnant, who are lactating. Now coming to the health consequences of anemia. So if we see worldwide, as I said earlier, that 1/3 of the global population is affected with anemia, and worldwide 9% of the global disability burden is attributed to anemia itself, which has a significant consequence on the health of the human, health of the nation, on the economy, and also on their social development as such. As we know, physiologically we need iron for hemoglobin, and hemoglobin has a function in the body that it is used to carry the oxygen to the tissues to meet their demands. So if there is anemia, there is decrease in Hb, it reduces the hemoglobin concentration in the blood, and which in turn reduces the oxygen carrying capacity of the blood. So tissues will not get enough oxygen as they need. So in anemia, directly will affect the work performance or the capacity of an individual to perform physically as well as mentally. So it reduces the endurance of an individual. So people are those who suffer from anemia, they have fatigue, they have anorexia, and it has been seen certain habits, pica habits, have been associated with anemia. Then it makes them more vulnerable to infections. And then there are certain signs and symptoms with anemia. It affects the nail, it can even have can cause cardiovascular problems also. Nutritional anemia greatly affects the maternal and perinatal outcome. Anemia that occurs, if it occurs during pregnancy, is associated with poor maternal as well as fetal outcome. There can be prematurity, it can lead to abortions, we may have a low birth weight baby, then it increases the maternal mortality, neonatal mortality, as well as the perinatal mortality. Now, anemia during the postpartum period, if it occurs, there is anemia during the postpartum phase, again it affects the quality of life of the feeding mother. She feels fatigued, feels lethargic, she has less energy to take care of the baby. So again this can affect her mental health and make her more prone to develop postpartum depression. in addition to making her more vulnerable to infections and other symptoms of anemia. There is a definitive scientific evidence that suggests that anemia in children reduces their school performance, it reduces their motor development, cognition, their learning capacity, their attention, as well as affecting their memory. So considering them as a most productive age group of the population, it's very important to tackle anemia in this age itself, so that we don't face long-term consequences of anemia. Now finally, let us talk about the prevention of nutritional anemia. When we talk about prevention, we always uh, classify that, or we talk under three headings: primary prevention, secondary prevention, and tertiary prevention. So we will focus on all those components of the prevention of for prevention of nutritional anemia. Beginning with the primary prevention, we know the primary prevention approach is through the promotion of the health and by providing specific protection to the vulnerable people or those who are at higher risk of developing anemia. And then secondary prevention is more about the screening of people about the disease or early diagnosis of anemia and starting immediate treatment or addressing the disease itself. And then tertiary prevention is about the disability limitation and rehabilitation, so that people are able to perform their role in the society. So beginning with the health promotion measures, so health promotion measures will include providing health education. Health education, or we can be, if we can be more specific, we can say nutritional education to improve the dietary habit of the people. So in the education, more focus should be uh, put on the type of the diet which is rich in iron content, which will give iron that is bioavailable to the body. So foods which are rich in iron, like green leafy vegetables, or we say about the non-veg and vegetarian sources of iron, red meat, white meat, then pulses, legumes, and green leafy vegetables. So talking about the nutritional education, we have to be very specific about the type of the food that we should educate, so that the people can consume those foods to improve their iron status. Then comes the periodical deworming of children, mainly focusing on children, as well as on pregnant women also, so that there is no predisposing factor for the anemia. In nutritional education, we can also talk about the taking foods which are in right combination, because there are many cultural factors or many behavioral factors wherein people are in a habit of consuming their staple food with coffee or tea, which is not a good combination, because they contain certain inhibitors like tannins in tea that inhibit the absorption of iron present in the food. And we can talk about the right combination, consuming your routine diet with those food items which will promote the absorption of iron present in the food, like we can make use of promoters like ascorbic acid, that is vitamin C, or even citric acid can be added to the diet, which can help in the absorption of the iron. And in education, we can talk about promoting kitchen gardens, growing wide variety of foods which are in diverse, which are diverse in nature, so that consuming variety of foods which contain different contents of iron, and which can make more and more iron available to the body, can help in a long way in tackling nutritional anemia. Now, after health promotion measures, we can have the second mode of primary prevention, that is through providing specific protection to the population. So there are many approaches towards developing specific protection is as far as nutrition anemia is concerned. So this can be achieved by food fortification measures. So recently, food fortification of this salt was done with iodine as well as the iron, known as double fortification of salt, to improve the iron intake by the general population. And then another measure for the food fortification can, as which is being done in the most of the developed countries, that they fortify their staple diet with iron, because usually whenever we talk about a fortification, it should be, the vehicle should be such that it is consumed by the large population, so that it can be of benefit to them. Then finally, about the nutritional program, which focus towards the control, prevention of nutritional anemia in the population. As already talked, that nutritional anemia is a condition which is of severe public health importance for India. And as I showed you earlier in the slides, that most of the females in India, they are anemic. Nearly 40-50% of adolescent girls are anemic, and 75 to 80% of females during their pregnancy and lactational phase are anemic. So it's very important to tackle nutritional anemia. So for that, we have a nutritional program that came into being, and this the first nutritional program that focused towards this program was launched in 1970 to prevent and control nutritional anemia, and it focused on mothers and children. And under this program, pregnant women and anemic children, they were provided iron and folic acid supplementation, which contains 60 milligram of elemental iron and 500 microgram of folic acid for females, and for children, the pediatric tablet consists of 20 milligram of elemental iron and 100 microgram of folic acid. However, after 2-3 decades, it was seen, since the implementation of the program, it was seen that anemia still constitutes a problem which is of public health significance. Pregnant female continue to have anemia, children continue to have anemia, and a very important age group that was missed under National Nutritional Anemia Prophylaxis Program was the adolescent age group that was missed, and children up to 12 years of age. So it was seen that they are also vulnerable group, and the anemia prevalence is continuing to go up and up in the country, and there is no stop to it. So there was change, or we can say the new program emerged, which is named as National Iron Plus Initiative, which focused, or which added the other vulnerable groups and included adolescent girls in its purview, and also included women who are in the reproductive age group. And the under this National Iron Plus Initiative, iron folic acid supplementation is being provided to these children, to the adolescent girls, to pregnant and lactating women, as well as non-pregnant and non-lactating women, through the existing public health system, and they are being provided in either daily regimen depending upon the eligible group, and we have a weekly regimen for the adolescent girls in the form of WIFs, and we have bi-weekly regimen for children who are less than 5 years of age, who are being provided iron folic acid under supervision within the sub-center, and for school-going children within the school setting under the supervision of the teacher, or those who are out of school under the supervision of Anganwadi teacher. And for pregnant women, they take, if they are non-anemic, they are being provided with the iron folic acid tablets for 100 days for the prophylactic purpose, and for therapeutic purpose they have to take 2 times what they take for the prophylactic use. And finally, the second level of prevention, that is the secondary prevention, that's about the diagnosis and treatment of the condition. So we have the treatment part here. The WHO has recommended the grading of anemia, and the treatment for based on the grading of the anemia. So if the hemoglobin level is less than 7 gram per deciliter, we classify it as a severe degree of anemia, and the treatment is for blood transfusion, and oral iron therapy is recommended if the HB level is from 11 to 9 gram per deciliter, and if it goes from 9 to 7, then we go for the parenteral iron therapy. This was all about nutritional anemia. So let us summarize. We talked about the nutritional anemia, global and India scenario, then the etiology of anemia, then effects of anemia on, especially on the vulnerable age group, then the prevention of anemia. in terms of health promotion measures, specific protection measures, and the treatment of briefly about the treatment of anemia. So thank you. If you have any queries, we will discuss it in the classroom.